Hello and welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. I am here live after my holidays, which were amazing, thank you very much. And we are going to be talking about the video I dropped a little while ago. Now, Harris will be joining us in a minute, but just before we went live, because we're very professional on here, he took a phone call. So as soon as he's back from talking to a lady friend, I'm certain he'll be with us to discuss the news or the rumor, really, that we've heard about Brad Wright and the possibility of him returning to Stargate. So, before we get stuck in, let's play the intro. Matt's been working hard again and creating us a bunch of new intros, if you hadn't noticed, by the way. So, SciTrek news first. We have some very big news to hit you with tomorrow about the SciTrek channel and things that we've been doing to try to improve the SciTrek experience for you lovely people. We'll be dropping that tomorrow when we are live with Matt and everybody. Just give me 1 second. We are live, right? Yeah. And we are going to be doing that's the other big SciTrek news, sorry. We hit 25,000 subscribers, so not too shabby at all. Thank you everybody that really helps the channel and supports us every day. So 25,000 is amazing. I mean, I never really thought we would hit anything like that, and I just think really it's a well, in lots of ways it's a miracle that we did. 25,000 subscribers is a decent number. I think I posted something earlier in the week that said basically like only like 1.5% of YouTube channels ever get over 10,000 subscribers. So getting 25,000 and still growing is an absolute, really is amazing. So we are going to have a chat about this rumor about Brad Wright. So, well, it's not really a rumor, in fact, that I know for certain from the sources that I've spoken to that it is true. In that I know that these people at MGM, mainly Michael Wright and Lindsay Sloan, are very interested in bringing Brad Wright back to the Stargate project. If you haven't seen the video already, it's already had about 2,000 views, so some of you, I'm sure a lot of you will have done. Basically, they're arguing, these MGM executives, Michael Wright is the head of MGM Plus, Lindsay Sloan is the head of scripted material at MGM and Amazon. Her support for Brad Wright is really important because Michael Wright was there before Amazon bought MGM. There's an arm, there's a boob, and there's Harris.
There's a person. Hello.
How much in trouble, the lady friend, are you?
We're good.
We're good. Right. Before we get on there, Harris, have you actually seen the video that I dropped earlier today that we're talking about?
Yeah, I did. I was wide awake whenever it aired, and I watched it 3 minutes after you dropped it.
That's going to make the next hour or next half an hour or so a lot easier. Right. So I was just saying that basically Michael Wright and Lindsay Sloan, these executives at MGM, are really supportive. I think the Lindsay Sloan news, which is new, I've never really talked about this woman before, but around November last year, she became the head of scripted material at MGM and Amazon Studios. So I think she's really important because she is actually an Amazon hire.
Yeah.
Right? So Michael Wright was there before the sale went through. Michael Wright's been in charge of MGM Plus for 2 or 3 years now. Lindsay Sloan is an Amazon girl.
Okay.
So I think that's really important that she's actually now on board and making this argument with Michael Wright that there's been a lot of infighting at MGM and Amazon for a while about whether we should have a TV series or a movie. When should we do it? How many episodes should we have? Brad? Should we not have? This has been going on a while. I mean, Jenny Stivens talked about this a lot on Dial the Gate, whatever as well. There's a lot of infighting going on. we believe Jennifer Salke, who's actually the head of Prime, is the one that's going, now we're doing a movie. And at the end of the day, she's the boss. So, but I mean, do you think it's important that this isn't actually an Amazon employee, an Amazon hire, I should say, that is actually now saying, no, come on, let's have Brad?
Yeah, I think it is. For two reasons. Obviously, the Brad aspect of things, and we'll dive into that because there's always good Brad things to talk about. But her being an Amazon employee, and not necessarily MGM, where it'd be cool if the MGM people still had more say and sway, and were able to kind of do the things they want to do to a degree, but it makes sense, Amazon being the parent company, that they're going to have more say and sway typically. I think her word's going to be more than Michael's at the end of the day, I guess.
I mean, that's the person that Jennifer Salke and the rest of the team at Amazon picked for this role. So I think, but I mean, Michael Wright still got his job, so they obviously support him as well. They've got rid of a lot of other people, like Pam Abdi and people like this. They were gone, straight away virtually. So I think
that's not contractual, though, is it? I'm just guessing.
The Pam Abdi and the other fellow and her working partner that shot over to Warner Brothers. My understanding was that they were the ones that were saying that Amazon, this is going to be great for MGM. Amazon going to do this. Amazon going to do that. And then it became very clear very quickly that Amazon weren't going to do it. So they mutually agreed that they would leave.
Okay.
But Michael Wright has always supported them. He was head of MGM Plus, and a few other things. His role has been pushed and been restricted a little bit. He's now just the head of MGM Plus, but he's still one of the main figures at MGM.
That's cool. Okay,
important. We have another person joining us in a second. Matthew!
Hello!
Hello! I've got a migraine, so I'm quite tired. And I'm struggling a little bit, and I've been writing all day. And Harris is stoned and possibly drunk. How are you, Matt?
I'm good. I have no hair. I have a big beard. I'm on holiday.
Your sound is awful.
What?
You sound.
What's wrong with my sound?
We know exactly what you're saying, but it sounds like you're saying it twice. It's like an immediate reverberation. It's kind of cool, but for full sentences, it's a little much.
Confusing.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Much.
Absolutely not. That's just your normal voice now.
That's much worse. But, right. By the way, guys, get into the comments. I do want this to be interactive. I want your opinions, so let's get on it. Matt, I was just saying about this Lindsay Sloan, who is actually an Amazon employee. She was hired by Amazon. She's getting behind Brad Wright and wants Brad Wright to return to this. She thinks that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is important, that it's not just people like Michael Wright, historical MGM? I mean, it would have been Michael Wright, that asked Brad to do the script back in 2019. He was the boss back then.
Is this a new member of Amazon then? It's completely new.
She joined MGM and Amazon in November.
Okay. Then it's definitely important. Having Michael Wright say it all the time is one thing, because he's been there and he's been fighting for it for years, but having someone new and fresh coming in it's basically us. It's like a representation of us coming into the company and saying, this is what the fans want, this is what we want. So very important. I think
it's great. Somebody that doesn't personally know Brad as well, you'd think. I mean, Michael Wright probably does. I've never asked Brad, but I mean, I could do. But like I said, they'd have had those conversations. So I'm going to just very quickly say, I want to be very, very clear on this, because I've already had a couple of comments. Brad Wright has not been approached, as far as I know, and as far as any of my sources know, and that I've asked them very specifically. There are no plans to approach Brad Wright about this. This is purely these couple of executives that are MGM and Amazon making this argument. So all I'm saying is there are people at MGM fighting for this to happen, not that there are any suggestions that it's going to happen. As far as we know, Jennifer Salke wants to push forward with a movie. So that's going to be my first question. And I love you guys again to get in the comments and ask and really tell me what you think. if they do go with Brad Wright, can he do a movie? If
done
you were
movies
Amazon
before.
executives, would you trust him to do a movie? I should say.
He's done movies before, but he's better at the TV show.
Just my first gut reaction is no. I just don't. I love the dude. I just don't know if a movie's his wheelhouse. You know.
Well, if it was your
Arc of
$100
Truth and
million,
Continuum were fantastic movies. If they'd had the screen time in the cinema,
yeah.
They're fantastic TV movies. I don't know if they would have done cinematic. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. They're perfect TV movies. I just don't know about it.
With those movies is you need to have watched the entirety of SG1 in order to appreciate them. And he is good at making things that link with, obviously, the TV show, because that is his wheelhouse, as you just put it.
What a British phrase, I feel.
You know, I don't know how my brain's still functioning at the moment, but it is. I'm glad.
Or put it this way. Look, Brad Wright did a couple of movies, but I would argue they weren't really movies. They were long Stargate episodes that were released as DVD movies.
Yeah.
I mean, in every other respect, they just look like a Stargate episode. Really. They didn't look like a cinematic movie, I would argue.
He didn't like up the ante for him. Which part of me appreciates, because it still feels so Stargate, like it feels like the TV show. But also, if you're shooting for a cinematic kind of feel, you got to up the ante to a degree.
I disagree with that. Stargate Continuum, he really upped the ante.
I'm not talking about plot wise. I'm talking about set design, production, quality, acting wise, etc., etc.
Arc of Truth is the end of season 10 of Stargate SG1. Really, I mean. If you didn't know that was released as a movie, you wouldn't know it. You would just think it was a double episode.
Yeah.
So it looks exactly the same to me. So I go back to the original question then. If you were Amazon boss and it was your $100 million, would you give it Brad Wright?
Not for a movie.
I would, because I like Brad.
Yeah, I like Brad too. I would give him it is, but if I was really hard,
if I was an Amazon boss and I hired Brad, I don't think I'd be an Amazon boss for very long, but I would.
Okay, well, how about then you bring Brad Wright on as the showrunner for the series, executive producer for the movie, and you do it that way.
Say that one more time. Sorry, I was reading a comment.
So he would be showrunner for the series. So you would he would be Alex Kurtzman, right, for Stargate. And I know that's going to anger people. Not the idiot Alex Kurtzman, but the Star Trek's Alex Kurtzman. So he would be the executive producer. He would be the showrunner. He would be the main man, but he wouldn't necessarily write everything. He wouldn't necessarily direct everything. He would be the captain of the ship. But you would, for the movie, you would bring in a director. You would potentially bring in other writers to support him. You would do something. Because at the end of the day, if you bring in a director that's got cinematic experience, but Brad Wright on his shoulder, directing things, pushing it in the right direction, making sure it's still Stargate. Would that work?
That's not far from what they would have done originally anyway. He didn't direct every single episode.
Yeah.
So it would, it would work. But I don't think it would be very far from what they originally did.
I don't go through Brad, wouldn't it, sort of thing?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
I'm not as familiar with either Alex Kurtzman, I guess, but Kevin Feige is the example that comes to my mind. If he could be the Feige for Stargate, it would be beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, that's more the Kevin Feige would be a better example of actually when it works, because with Kurtzman. He's the big problem that a lot of people feel anyway with Star Trek at the moment, that it's far too much of Alex Kurtzman's influence. He wrote the J.J. Abrams movies, and then
I know you're talking about.
He showrun the series. He seemed to want to bring a lot of that influence into the series, and people hated it.
They didn't hire Terry Matalas instead of him, but they kind of hired him in his stead, right? In a way.
He came in for he wrote season 2 of Picard, or wrote bits of season 2 of Picard, and then he came in for season 3.
That's all he's done?
Oh, but before that, he worked on like Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, I think, as well.
Okay,
as well.
okay.
Years
Just
ago,
'cause
and did 12 Monkeys, and he came back. Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
But yeah, one of the reasons why Picard season 3 is the first thing he's showrun in the Star Trek world.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought he had done, like a multitude of shows or seasons of shows, like after Kurtzman left or something like that. I don't know.
He wrote a fair bit of the early, like I think it was Enterprise. He wrote a fair bit, and he, like I said, he's wrote in Enterprise. I remember when Metalis did an interview recently, though, and he said like he'd just finished 12 Monkeys, and he was saying his sent an email to his agents, and all it said was Star Trek, and he says that's all I want to do, just get me on Star Trek. I'll do anything. And so he's a master.
I like this comment.
Yeah,
would it be possible to revive SGU? I would say if Brad did come back, it would be a certainty that they would revive SGU, or at least have some sort of conclusion.
Well,
and that's what his plan was.
Yeah.
To jump off that, the comment that I was reading while I had to make you restate everything was SGU was much more cinematic and worked so well. Mark said that, and I still think he'd have to. SGU was much more cinematic in that way. I think every episode of SGU was more cinematic than even Stargate Continuum, honestly. So that's not the quality of film I'd still be looking for. I'd still want a little bit more, especially if they're spending a bunch of money on a singular like project. But he could do it. Maybe that makes me that shoots my pendulum a little more midway, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Just very quickly to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hi, Kerry. Hi, Jordanator. Hey, Trekgate. Don Christopher. Hello, everybody. Davey, I'm going to mention something you mentioned earlier in a minute, Dave. Michael, say hi, everybody. And Klopp, United won. I don't care that we might have had a VR decision that went our way. So, glory, glory, Man United. That's all I'm saying.
Did that guy change his name to control you?
Possibly. And then everybody else in the I've just seen the Trek gates here. I'm hoping for Brad. No hard reboot. Dumb and unnecessary. Yeah, I mean, that's talking about the news that we had last week, or a couple of weeks ago now, that the director. Now, people got really upset about that because this director must be an idiot. He was asking for a hard reboot. Listen to what I said. He didn't ask for a hard reboot, but apparently the director did say, if I want to do a hard reboot, am I allowed to? Which isn't the same thing. He's just sort of saying, look, if we can't figure out how to do this and we don't get a good story, is that an option? And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that's
just laying all the cards on the table, seeing what's available and what's not.
And yes, make Brad the great overseer of all of Stargate. Yes,
I like that.
This is what Kerry wants to highlight. After everything he's done, after SG1, SG, and SGU, I think we should know which direction to go and do what he knows that works.
There we go.
As the overseer.
I think that's very sensible. At the end of the day, one of our big concerns is that anybody that comes in to Stargate has to understand the franchise, and that is one of the big things. Again, Star Trek. That people have said that people keep coming in and writing Star Trek that don't seem to have ever watched Star Trek before. They keep making loads of like canon mistakes and rewriting characters and things, and they seem to have forgotten a lot of that. You know, if you're going to write a Star Trek episode, you should know the canon. You should know Star Trek. That's one of the big fears for Stargate. Is somebody going to come in and have a rough idea what Stargate is and write something they like, but we're watching it there going, well, that's not right. Have they forgotten that episode where blah, blah, blah happened? You know,
and there's a lot of episodes in Stargate where they have like giant frickin' concepts that just are like not brushed aside, but they do it quickly and don't necessarily come back to it, or they mention it further on, and that's easy to gloss over.
Yeah, it is. Alope, you're late, so you know we're not repeating ourselves. So
the rewind.
Popeye.
Ollie Popeye. You can obviously just go back and watch it from the beginning. But right, so one of the things.
The entire 20 minutes.
Watch the entire 20 minutes again. If you watch it 2 or 3 times, it's good for our numbers. So do that. So If right, so one of the things actually was one of our Patreon members. I think it was Dave. Now I'm not sure. I'm sure it's Dave. Mentioned one of the ideas was that when we were talking about back in 2020 when this all started, the Brad Wright script was being tossed around Amazon and MGM before Amazon took over MGM. And that Amazon kept coming back to... So Brad Wright was writing a script. It would go to MGM, and then MGM showed it Amazon, and Amazon apparently kept sending it back saying, you can go bigger, do something bigger. We want, we really want something bigger. And that was one of the reasons initially why we thought maybe Amazon weren't going with Brad. We then realized there's a couple of business reasons, and because of this thing of them having to have a partner, like Warner Brothers, something like this, that was more likely the reason why they didn't want to. They needed somebody that was already sort of connected to one of these studios, and so it wasn't really possible. But that's changed now because they've got their own studios, or starting to. So, I mean, does that make a difference then? That maybe, I mean, Dave's point was that now maybe the studios want to spend a bit less money. Maybe they're looking back on Brad's initial idea, thinking that's more affordable. Do you think that's a possibility?
I was going to counter question you and say, just from you saying the small thing, what would you prefer some big giant bombastic thing that's just trying to outdo everything else, have some skybeam third act CGI crap fest, or would you rather something smaller and more intimate? And I honestly feel like Brad could bring the intimacy back and give us something big enough to reintroduce the characters that we love and we want to see again.
Yeah.
But do it more intimately, I guess, and not need to have...
Yeah.
Sure, there's going to be CGI and there's going to be all these other little things, but it doesn't need to be like your third act crap fest of CGI big battle and skybeam happens back here, because that's super freaking likely if they want to make a big movie and try to make it bombastic. But I think that would hurt a television series.
For the movie, it's going to be a relatively simple storyline, isn't it? It just is. It's 2 hours at most.
Mm-hmm.
I would put Brad doing a lower budget movie, because he would do it better than a higher budget movie, because they've gone on record before saying that they went in the first couple of seasons of SG1, they had basically no money, yet made it work. Mm-hmm. If he's able to do that for an entire season, he can do it for a movie. For a couple, it was like 2 or 3 seasons. They're basically saying they had no money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 90 grand
syndication and everything.
Yeah, 900 grand an episode. They had less than $1 million an episode, which even then was nothing.
Yeah, and then syndication happened, and it all kicked off, and they actually got money, and then obviously the production value went up. But they did it without the money initially, and it was a good show, so you can do it again.
I think so, and I think he's got an idea of. Well, I've spoken to him a couple of times and asked him what he thinks, and I know, and I follow his Twitter, and I see what he writes on Twitter, and he's always he seems to have a logical thought of where Stargate is now. He thinks about it. He still thinks about Stargate today. Where would it be now? What makes sense? And one of the things he sort of says was that we were going to see a homemade Stargate, as it were. So we were looking to try to understand the technology more and build our own Stargates. I don't know why we would, because they were everywhere, it seems. But
it's the next logical step, isn't it? We made our own ships. We made kind of our own like weapons, and then the next logical step is, well, this whole thing came about because of the Stargate. Let's just make our own.
Would that be the next logical step, though?
Yes, because then they could actually make a Stargate designed to like get to destiny that draws less power. They can control the production. They can control how it works. If they understand that, that's how they save like the crew of Destiny. I know I go on about Destiny a lot, but that's like
rightfully so.
But that's a plot point, and it's something that he would probably be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was always thinking well, they could make one a bit bigger to get stuff through, maybe, because the Stargate isn't very big. But I mean, the ancients obviously didn't think it needed to be bigger than that. But
you already did the Supergate, and that was good.
Yeah,
I did like the idea of having a Stargate that a spaceship could go through. I think that was amazing. That was one of the best things they ever did. So if we
So
maybe they reversed
SGA does you one
before,
better.
Supergate.
SGA does you one better. That's why I asked, is it the next logical step? Because at the end of SGA, I know we've discussed it before, and we're like, well, they say it doesn't work anymore, but would we still have, where they're at? You know exactly what I'm going to say.
Wormhole drive.
Wormhole drives. Wouldn't that be the next logical step? We've seen it work before. We have a Stargate. We've got extra ones if we need them.
The only issue with the wormhole drive
is it never worked even for the ancients. The Stargate did.
The wormhole drive was abandoned by the ancients because they couldn't get the damn thing to work. It was like trying to ride the back of an angry cat or something. It was just
got it to work once.
Just about, and it burned out. Well, it destroyed itself. And they were saying they didn't know how to fix it, so it just burned out. But it was like, well, trying to, like the Tasmanian devil, like,
yeah.
It was like trying to jump on the back of him and going, like, go. It was, to a race sort of thing. It was just like, well,
I guess I'm trying to think of it coming from like, it's a government-run program, and they watch this actually work. Mm-hmm. The government's going to try to recreate it one way or another,
Yeah. That's I'm sorry because he's just jumped in there saying, yeah, it was a poor plot decision maybe, but it was a necessary one. And then they destroyed it immediately, even though Joseph Malozzi said we were going to see it again potentially in the movie Extinction. No, I couldn't say that word for someone. I want to say instinction for some reason, which isn't a word.
It could be.
It is now. It's in the Star Trek dictionary.
It's yesent and what'd you just say? Instinct and
instinction.
It's extinction.
Okay. Yeah,
it's extinction.
The movie was supposed to be called Extinction. Yeah, it was going to be about them going back to Pegasus basically to sort out the Wraith, but we never got it.
Revolutions. Stargate Revolutions was the third SG-1 movie that was going to reveal the Stargate program.
That would have been amazing.
Yes. You were shaking your head. I think you were just eating your pen. I thought you were going to say that wasn't the name of the movie.
Yeah, no, it would have been. And then I think that might be kind of the movie we end up getting if Brad Wright writes it. I would not be surprised at all if that movie idea is very similar to the plot for the pilot episodes that he wrote already.
Just had a thought as well. So you mentioned Brad has been thinking about this for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
Right? One of the biggest issues we've got is there's been 12, 13, however long it's been, nearly 15 years without Stargate. But in his mind, it's carried on and he's thought about where they are, what they've done. So he knows exactly how to start the movie, where they would be, like, politically, technologically, all this kind of stuff, and
logically as well. That's the thing.
Logically, yeah,
it makes no sense that it would still be a secret. And if you think about it, we're going around the planet giving like Nakoda generators to people, but people on our own planet, are going through energy crises. It makes no sense. It's not logical.
Sorry, I was typing.
My dinner is very, very soon, so
okay.
I'm just waiting for the text to say
it's fine, mate. You can go as soon as you need to. But yeah, one of the other comments that we've had on the video I did earlier was, why would we want Brad Wright to come back when he's the one that killed the franchise in the first place? Is that
but did he kill the franchise, or did MGM's bookkeeping kill the franchise?
That's what 100% I would argue. Whether you love or hate the Stargate universe, it was getting a lot better. And I was enjoying. I don't like Stargate universe. I think it was boring, but it was getting better. And how many? I keep saying this. How many sci-fi series have we seen that the first season and maybe even the second season aren't very good, but go on to become the greatest? The first season of Stargate SG-1 wasn't very good, except for a couple of brilliant episodes. Mm-hmm. First season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which is now considered one of the greatest Star Trek episodes of the last 30 years, sci-fi series in the last 30 years, was awful. But it went on to be brilliant.
Yeah, there's plenty of TV shows, not just sci-fi. There's good examples of that. Breaking Bad wasn't good until season 3. I mean, it was a very good show, but it was very boring
One
up
of those
until
that
season 3.
started
It's just
brilliantly, and then it
ridiculous.
dipped, and then it got good, and it started building again, and I think
Yeah.
it's fair to say.
It's Always Sunny and Parks and Recreation come to mind with that. Those first seasons were all right,
Yeah.
and then after it just
Always
gets
Sunny
made.
in Philadelphia. I keep meaning to. I always want to watch it because I see clips of it from now. I went to watch the first episode, and because it was like 20 years ago, I'm looking at it going, I don't know any of these characters. This isn't funny.
They filmed it for like $75. That was literally like the budget for the first episode, and now they're the most. I think they get the biggest budget out of like any 20-minute sitcom on air right now. Which, you know, after 16 years, why not? But
I will hear nothing bad said about Joseph Malozzi because people saw the argument I had with him, and
how did Malozzi kill the franchise?
Not a clue. But
I mean,
I won't hear
the only thing he was in charge of was Atlantis for the last 2 seasons.
He was a consultant in SGU, wasn't he? I believe
he was involved in SG1 and SGU, but he show ran SGA for the last 2 seasons. Brad Wright gave up the reins and gave it to him. And I would argue the final seasons of Stargate Atlantis were the best seasons.
I was just about to say that same thing. I was like, I think those might be my 2 favorite seasons.
Yeah, he wrote some of the best episodes of SGA. The one where he says, "You shot me." Yeah, I'm sorry, Rodney. I shot you. He goes, "No, you shot me.
You shot me.
I shot everybody." I'm sure Malozzi wrote that. I think he
That's
did.
season 2, isn't it?
End of season 2. Start of season 2.
It's where Ronan's in it, so it's at least season 2.
Yeah. I was so good. I'd forgotten that Ronan doesn't join it till like 2 or 3 episodes.
You have to
the first episode
get through Adrian. What's his name? Aiden Ford.
Yeah, just trying to get through the first season.
He's a good character, to be fair, in the end, but he was so boring when he was just a member of SGA.
The actor's got the coolest name ever, too. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Sun Franks.
Huh?
Rainbow Sun Franks.
Yeah, yep.
Name.
So cool. So cool.
But yeah, I mean, I just thought it was great. So, what else are we going to talk about?
The popcorn power comment. I'm sorry.
No, Brad Wright, we want Kathleen Kennedy. No, I just think Jennifer Salke should do it. So let's just get her in charge.
Is it Lindsay Sloan? Is that the right name?
Yeah.
Is she a sulky hire?
Yes.
Okay.
Is she sulky? Is she sulking?
She is a sulky hire. When she got the job, she was like, "No, I don't want it." But
I applied, but I didn't really want it.
I don't know why I applied.
You need to get Brad back.
My mom told me to. I need a new job.
I would agree. Yeah, but yeah, I think that's why it's important that she's one of the names. I believe there are other people as well that are fighting for this, but these are the names that the source has said to me that the reason why this has come about was that apparently there was a meeting about 3 weeks ago, and apparently Michael Wright got very animated, as he apparently tends to do. But Lindsay Sloan, and this was the first time the source I was speaking to actually witnessed it themselves, that Lindsay Sloan supported him the whole way. But apparently some of the meetings about MGM's direction over the next 5 years do get quite animated, and apparently a lot of the time it's Michael Wright that makes them quite animated. So I have a rumor, and this is distinctly a rumor, that he had a meeting with Jennifer Salke. This is about 6 months ago now. And when he came back in, he was heard saying several expletives and then kicked a bin across the office. But I don't know if that's true or not, but it would be funny if it was.
Entertaining one way or another.
I knew find out whether it was true or not.
For legal purposes, that is just a rumor.
Distinctly a rumor and distinctly probably not true. So let's just go with that's not true. But if it was, funny. So yeah, I just wonder, where does this leave things like Mark Ferguson if they were to go with Brad Wright?
I don't think it kicks him out completely. He could still
be the showrunner.
He could still be involved. if they bring Brad back, doesn't mean Brad's going to be there forever. Brad's old. Brad's in his 70s.
Is he
He's
really?
gonna retire at some point. Maybe it will be like Brad and his apprentice, and the apprentice is fucking what's his name, Mark Fergus.
Yeah.
If
And he's
Mark
going to
Fergus
give him all his knowledge, and then it's going to be like in his will, I give Stargate to Mark Fergus or whatever.
it's like George Lucas, Dave Filoni. Like just we need a Filoni for Stargate, please.
Bring in Nathan Fillion, do a load of hero ship characters based on a very character-driven show. Call it Firefly. Be great. They can have Stargate in it. So, yeah, I don't see that. I don't think
Brad Wright is 62. Okay, he's in his 60s, but still, that's nearly retirement age.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see more. Yeah. Well, I don't think Brad Wright has any intention of retiring anytime soon. But I know where you're coming from. I just think that, look, Brad Wright could be the showrunner. He could write the odd episode here and there. Mark Fergus and Hawk Oastby didn't showrun The Expanse. It was at Aaron Shankar.
Yeah.
They're not showrunning the series they're doing with Amazon now.
God of War.
God of War. They're not showrunning. They're developing it. Developing seems to be their bag. Now, the rumor we heard was that Mark Fergus wants to step up. He wants Stargate to be his baby. But he's got lots of other projects, and Penguin and Parker have got lots of other projects. Maybe Amazon would go like, come on now, this is this is really a big deal. We want someone else to come in and showrun. You do what you do. You do what you do great. We're going to, write loads of the episodes. We're going to bring another Brad Wright's going to work with you. I just wonder if that's the way. And to me, Brad Wright is such an inclusive person. He never says, if you say Brad Wright, the creator of Stargate, he will be the first one to go, no, I wasn't. I was the co-creator of Stargate, and there was lots of other people involved. Robert Cooper did just as much as I did. You know what I mean? And look at Malozzi, look at everyone who's so I think if you're going to bring in Brad Wright and you wanted somebody that was inclusive, I'm absolutely certain he could work with somebody like Mark Fergus.
Yeah.
If Fergus comes in and either show runs or develops, does that automatically, obviously we don't know, we're just speculating, but do you think that would put him in a position for the movie, or would they still hire a whole separate director for that? And maybe Fergus would help develop that, or what, I guess?
He's done it before. Fergus has done movies before. I don't think Amazon would have any problem with him coming in, writing a script, working with another director, working with whatever. I don't see that would be a problem. He's done several movies.
The director that comes to mind. We shouldn't say it, but
there's a couple.
There's the one that I want that I like. You know who I'm thinking. Well, later.
Okay. Well, we know there's a few names knocking around that we've had rumors about. So, but no, let's not worry too much about that yet. All right. We'll talk about it after the stream ends. But yeah. Yeah, well, let's see what happens. But yeah, whoever they comes in, obviously Mark Fergus isn't going to direct anyway, so they're going to have to bring in a director. So Brad Wright has done a bit of directing. I don't think he directs motion picture, obviously, but
Amanda Tapping does some directing.
Amanda Tapping does, and that would be a step up for her. But why not? The big issue then that we were talking about in the video earlier was that there is a Rings of Power problem for Amazon. That they've got a reputation now of making some TV shows that haven't been great and let down fans. And there was a lot of negativity about the Rings of Power 6 months before it ever came out. We've discussed this loads of times. Is this a no-brainer? Because that's what makes me Michael Wright and Lindsay Sloan seem to be arguing. This is a no-brainer. Make the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Is it as easy as that?
You'd think so. I mean,
why wouldn't you do it?
I don't think anyone was pining for a Lord of the Rings TV series. A prequel, for that matter. I don't think anyone was shouting in the streets or online that we want this. I may be wrong. I'm not part of that community, but I don't remember. I've never seen anything like that online. There is a massive. Well, we are the massive community. Obviously, there's other people other than us, but who are pining for this show. It is a no-brainer. There are so many people out there, people who don't necessarily interact with us online either. Not just us, but the Stargate fandom. When they do these polls online and they say, "Oh, there's like 1 million people interested," there are significantly more people as well who don't participate in those polls. There is a massive audience for Stargate.
Yeah,
as we've seen.
Sleeping giant of sci-fi.
4 million views or something this channel's got, largely attributed to the fact that Stargate is something we talk about.
Yeah,
it's not an accident. It's there. People want Stargate.
Sarah makes a brilliant point there that some of the best Star Trek episodes of late, and one of the big names behind why they think Picard season 3 did so well is because Jonathan Frakes was the director, somebody that loves the franchise, really understands what Star Trek is. Is Amanda Tapping our Jonathan Frakes?
She could be.
Yeah. She shows a very good director, a very good producer, a very good executive producer. She knows how the industry works in front and behind the camera. She really could be our, particularly.
She doesn't have a beard though,
which is unfortunate. But I mean, if she had help as well, if they brought in people to support her, which they do sometimes with these things, an executive producer that knows what they're doing, you know what I mean? Sky's the limit.
Really though, if probably wouldn't be the best idea, but if she was tapped to do the film as well, she'd probably be good for a more intimate, smaller film, and it'd be good just to get your immediate Stargate fan base back to those 4 million views you were just saying, plus every other Stargate fandom channel anywhere. All of their views are immediately going to the movie theater for that, immediately going into the TV series. So those eyeballs will be there.
If you tapped Amanda, are you Amanda tapping?
That sounds very rude.
I need an alliteration, like if a woodchuck could chuck wood with this. Somebody
because you said tapped, and then I was like tapping.
If you tried to tap Amanda Tapping in any way, I'm pretty sure she could knock you out. So I think she can handle herself.
I think she'd like us.
Yeah, I think she'd like us as well. So, I mean, yeah, I think it would be a no-brainer. I just think Amazon have been so burned by the Rings of Power, which, whether you like the show or not, has had a lot of negativity thrown at it, and it harmed it. It hurt it. Amazon,
I don't think they should have ever said how much they spent on that TV series. If
they had to, though,
spent $1 billion, no one would have been the wiser. People might have enjoyed it, and then it's because there's an expectation when there's $1 billion. Obviously, there's the whole woke thing as well, but we'll ignore that.
There was going to be an expectation anyway. I think they had to release the number probably. If they could have avoided talking about it, they probably would have. I bet you the Tolkien estate was like, because they did. They were literally like, we just took $1.2 billion for this one series. Now we're going to sell off for $750 million because this is how much we're valued, and they use that as a business deal. So it was almost just as screwed up for the Tolkien estate as Amazon. Honestly, I know that's probably sacrilegious to say for a lot of Tolkien folk, but.
As a publicly traded company as well, Amazon, I don't think could hide $1 billion.
No,
they couldn't do. They just had to front it. But I know what you mean. I think that was the biggest problem they had was the budget. And people, how many times do people go $1 billion, $1 billion, like it matters? It's not our money. Well, it is our money, I suppose, because it's the money we've given Amazon. But you know what I mean? It's not our money. So
you made me think about something while we were. Tapping Amanda, whatever alliteration came up with. If they do hire someone that's not as, if this is like someone stepping up kind of thing, like, oh, give them the new series, like Amanda Tapping, like step her up to the plate for this. Obviously, she's a little more tried and true. She's produced her own television series. She's done a few different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you just said Rings of Power. Those two guys that wrote that,
That's
obviously, we already have writers that will probably be on the ball kind of deal. They're seasoned veterans in the writing world, much less so than the two guys that wrote Rings of Power. If I guess Stargate goes the route of like, we're going to give someone a chance on this.
Yeah.
Do you think that's more likely that we're going to have a not as good product? Would you rather have that seasoned showrunner? Even you could say that about Mark Fergus too, because he hasn't technically showran. Would it be better for him just to stay as a developer and not actually showrun? And say, hey, if you really want this to be your baby, work up to it. You know, set yourself financially up for the baby first. I don't know. You know,
directed. I mean, normally showrunners direct or something. I mean, Kevin Feige though, he was, you know, he's never written anything or directed anything as far as I know, and he's one of the best showrunners. You could argue he's let the reins go in the last couple of years, but he's one of the best showrunners of the last 20 years.
Technically never showran either.
Well, you know, he is the captain of the ship though, and he's the manager sort of thing that runs everything. But yeah, I know what you mean. He never get involved in actually day-to-day stuff. You just make sure everyone's going in the right direction. Brad would be far more creative if that was the way things went. I mean, David said they'll get someone who's never done a single episode of the franchise but promises to honor the legacy. I suspect David Hutton is possibly a Star Trek fan, because that's how Star Trek fans feel. Dave Bradley, Brad involved SGU, mostly disliked SGU. Just I hope they give the winning formula to SG1, SG8. Yeah, we need some fun back into it.
Who's we?
Yeah, I know you liked SGU. But out of the three, what's your favorite? Actually, save that for tomorrow because that's tomorrow's conversation. And thinking about it.
I might be wearing a different color hoodie tomorrow.
Yeah, well, tomorrow's live chat is all about which is the best Stargate franchise, because I did a video about it and I've told you my opinion and we'll see. But guys, I know Matthew needs to eat. Harris needs to sleep. And I'm on my own this evening.
Isn't it like 7 a.m. for you, Harris?
It's 10:48.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't slept. Do you remember what it was like to be that age?
Have you not gone to sleep yet?
No. I got a story for you after we leave this.
We'll
to be young again.
But Harris had a lovely.
Does it involve the
yes.
lady?
Yes, it does. She might be watching. But yes,
she did subscribe. I do my due diligence.
Good. If I got past 11 o'clock at night, I'd be asleep. I would be the guy in the corner at the nightclub.
The club didn't open till 10.
Harris out at a nightclub and he meets a woman and then he goes to subscribe to Side Trek.
We'll start going to clubs in Sidetrack shirts. Yeah. Oh, no. I wish I could tell you.
No, God, no, we're not telling you. Don't tell us, I'm not letting you. So, guys, thanks for joining us on this impromptu live show. Like I said, we have some very interesting Sidetrack news, but we're going to tell you tomorrow. And thank you again so much for allowing us to hit the 25,000 mark. I stayed up half the night waiting for it. I was watching the subscribers click on my holidays. So I got that bloody phone off. No, I'm at 24,998.
Two more.
But it was very exciting to hit 25k. I'm a little bit concerned that we're halfway to 50,000, and I have to get a tattoo at that point. But you know,
tramp stamp.
All right, I'm thinking on my shoulder, but we'll see. And then somebody else has said, "What you're going to do at 100,000?" And I'm going to do a strip show. No, I'm not really.
Everyone unsubscribe.
You could do a funny Sidetrack racy calendar for 100,000, and then you'd have another merchandise product, but it'd be funny as hell.
We'll all have to be in it though.
Okay, as long as I don't have to be Slave Leia, I'm good.
I want to see Stormy.
You know how much you'd have to
just
pay me to
Christmas
take part
cards.
in that, right?
How much to pay you? No, you do as you're told.
No,
By
you're selling it.
100K.
Matt, take your clothes off. I'll sell it.
Go for it. I forgot what we decided I was.
You're a gopher, yeah.
I
I can't remember why, but you
I
are.
don't
I don't remember. I can't remember the name because it's a long, funny name. He's got his actual name inside of it, but it's like a long, elongated name. What was it? You're the badger. Jamie's the gopher. Stormy is the wise old owl, and I was a fox.
Foxy Fox.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm a badger.
Yeah.
I don't even know who said it. Who called us these things? Was
Can't
it Kerry?
remember. I'll go back. I'm going to
was
start
Kerry,
doing
wasn't
some, like, best of the lives again, but no, it was
It
somebody in the
wasn't Kerry.
comments.
Oh, who was it?
I forget.
I don't remember the guy's name, but he has his name inside of like it's like the da 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 da. It's like the Eric Jones, or something like that, you know?
Oh, yes.
He's messaged us since. He's the guy that keeps trying to get himself banned. Because when are you going to ban me? You haven't done anything.
And then we did, and it went too long or whatever.
Yeah, I timed him out and accidentally banned him from the entire thing.
Yeah. It was Lee Wilcox, you're right. And his name was in the long big thing. Yes, it was. And he decided we were all.
God, Kerry's got a really good memory.
Thank you.
You must live stream and sing the praise of the new Star Wars trilogy. I'm hoping we. Oh, do you mean the last Star Wars trilogy? I was going to say, I'm hoping we hit 100,000 maybe before another Star Wars trilogy comes out, but we'll see.
I almost pressed leave studio on that comment.
Yeah. So no, basically, I didn't hate the Star Wars trilogy, but I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so I'm watching it just going, that's funny. Whereas everyone else is there going, that shouldn't happen.
We'll go to the dark side.
I do like Star Wars, but I'm not a massive Star Wars fan either.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the last 3 movies, but because I'm slightly above average, I guess. I could see the glaring problems with it, but I'm like, I don't care.
Well, Brain wants some star guests. We are trying. We might have a couple. So watch.
Wait,
this
am I not good enough?
No. Well, you're not
Matt
star.
Dean.
Never been recognized in public, so I don't count. And Harris
tried in New York.
I once had. So there's an event called Summer in the City. So back when I was YouTuber back in the day, right? I had. This is not a lie. A load of people with me, and we were all going down the road, and they were chanting, "Matt Dean, Beauty Queen. Matt Dean, Beauty Queen." Highlight of my career.
I love it. Instead of can we call you the Badger Beauty Queen now?
Yeah, I had more hair there, so I was a beauty queen. But
I was once chased by many policemen shouting, "Put your clothes back on." Does that count?
Yeah.
That's very gophery.
Yeah, they didn't recognize me as such because I was running away, but I'm pretty sure they would recognize me if they met me again. So if they saw me from behind, naked. I was fast back then. Anyway.
I love that you said that as I typed out the word sandy cheeks.
I wasn't sandy, it was shiny.
I was responding to somebody named Sandy Cheeks in the chat, but it fit if the shoe fits.
Anyway, I was very drunk and fast, so got away with it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming and having a chat with us about that. I thought we'll try to do this a bit more often when something drops like this. We'll do a video that people can watch, but then we'll talk about it afterwards where we can, because I think it's interesting. We will see you tomorrow when we're doing is SGA the best of the Stargates? And we'll begin that argument for fun. So thank you so much, guys. Everyone saying bye-bye now, bye-bye now, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Wait a sec, I haven't found the... got it. Bye.